Hello Redditors, welcome back to Tales Against Humanity. Now, let's get started. In today's episode,
Yes, I replaced the keyboard. Hello TFTS. I'll share a short story from this morning. I was out on a client site, 1 hour of driving from office to get there, to install a router, and clean some mess from previous installation, old router/switch from ISP still here, while not used, lone cable, and that kind of mess. Classic, easy operation, there's more driving than time used for the job, but this has to be done, so yeah, nothing far from unusual. I got a call from my boss telling me that there's an emergency, and asked me if I could go on site. Our hotline got a call from a customer earlier in the morning, asking if we can help them with a PC that won't log. They apparently can't get past the Control-Alt-Del screen before login in Windows. The other things they mentioned is that the PC had some problem yesterday in the evening, and they had to shut it down, and it didn't work since. The issue was simply the mouse selecting everything when overing text or image or whatever. After the reboot, nothing worked. This is not a big deal, clearly a mouse or keyboard issue, right? Right? Well, my colleague taking the call asked the user if he can change the keyboard and the mouse to see if that still doesn't work. And, big surprise, it doesn't work with the other keyboard neither. When my boss ended his story, I just told him that I'm pretty sure he didn't try it with another keyboard. The issue could be driver related, but this often happens with keyboard with macro key or this kind of things, not standard keyboard. The fact is, it doesn't work, we can't remote control the computer without a user logged in, and if it's software related, we have to go. The user is saying that this is an emergency, as always, as he can't use his computer. Guess what? Their office is another hour from where I was, and around 40 minutes from my office. So that already was looking for a late lunch break. I hate late lunch break. I get on site around 1 hour later, the user is on his lunch break. I didn't have mine yet, and I'm at least 40 minutes away from it. I hate it. They ask for an emergency and just leave the office to get a lunch break? Like, seriously? Never mind, I asked to someone on site, where is the computer? No, I will not wait for the user, I'm damn hungry. I get in front of the computer and tried multiple things. In first, a reboot, we can't trust user about reboots, we all know that. Then I changed the keyboard USB port, we never know, still not working. Before getting deep into software problems or that kind of things, I decided I'll just assume, for one moment, that this is the old keyboard, and it was never changed. I was just sure of it, and I'll try that first. I just tried a little thing, a key shortcut that would work even in the logging screen, Win+P. Yep, that works. The keyboard works fine, only the Control+Alt+Del doesn't work. Then I just noticed something. A key is stuck. A freaking key is stuck. I was right, they didn't change the keyboard, but worst, I got a late lunch, I'm now grumpy, I got to drive an extra hour for a stuck key. If you can guess what key was stuck with what I said, congrats to you. So yeah, don't forget, from Rules of Tech Support. Rule 1, users lie. I'm writing this during my late lunch break, have a nice day. TLDR, I drove an extra hour from my morning job to go for an emergency stuck key that could have been resolved easier if the user didn't lie to the hotline. I also was late for my lunch break. Story 2. Changed my password and now the email doesn't load, you know where this is going. Short. User, I don't know why this doesn't connect. Me, okay, is there any error message? User, there is this box that keeps popping up that I just X out of any time I start the application. Me, okay, let's restart it and see what it says. User, it's asking for my username and password for some server. Me, what's the server? User, company email server. Me, okay, so have you put in your user ID and password here yet? User, no, I didn't know what it was connecting to. It would stand to reason that when you open Outlook, for email, if there is a box popping up asking for your login to the company email server, you might want to put in those credentials, especially when you just changed your password and the server needs to know who is connecting. Me, okay, it's trying to connect to the company server. Go ahead and drop in your user ID and password. Hashtag it works. User, surprised Pikachu. User, how did you know that, and how can I know that next time? Me, please read the error message or pop-up box instead of immediately ignoring it. User. Me, neutral face. Story 3. The time the fire suppression system caught fire. For a while, I had a contract gig working for a big company. Part of my responsibilities involved some work in a small server room. This server room had its own fire suppression system, separate from the system and the rest of the building. I don't know all the details, but there was a big pressurized tank of fire suppression stuff, not halon, over in the corner, and a dedicated network of pipes and overhead nozzles to dispense the stuff if it should be needed. And, obviously, a lot of smoke detectors and such to trigger the thing if there were a fire. One additional detail was that this server room was part of the building security's hourly loop. They were supposed to enter one door, walk the length and width of the room, read a meter for the room temperature to verify the air handler was keeping it all cool, and go out the other door, over by the big fire suppressant tank. Obviously, it was critical that the system be fully pressurized at all times, so there was a small air compressor in the system to keep the tank topped up. There must have been some kind of pinhole leak, because it would run for a minute or 3 every couple of days. It was rare enough that I don't think I ever actually heard it, at least at first. Then the leak must have gotten worse, because the compressor ran more and more. Soon it was running every day. Then it must have started running all the time. I wasn't there when it happened, but I was told after the fact that the security guy had been doing his hourly loop and spotted the compressor letting out its magic smoke, so he grabbed a handheld fire extinguisher and put out the fire. No telling what would have happened if the smoke detectors had actually gone off after all. The big tank was probably not adequately pressurized. But I imagine the system also tied into an EPO switch, so I think the whole room would have gone down. Story 4. Don't click that button. And don't annoy the tech guys. FYI, I'm not a native speaker and live in Germany, so I might get some of the English IT terminology wrong. Sorry about that. This happened during the mid-2000s. I was working for a IT company and was part of a small sales team that focused on IT trainings, mostly sysadmins. There were 3 sales managers and 2 assistants, me and S. Aside from one of the sales managers, I was the one with the most knowledge about computers. I often acted as the first troubleshooter when it came to computer problems before calling in tech support. It was a smallish company, so tech support was usually handled by our apprentices/trainees. Tech support was also just 2 floors down, so they usually just showed up in person. I'd been with that company for a few months, S had been with them for a few years. S was the one who'd trained me, keep that in mind for later. She was also someone who was fake friendly and didn't get along with the tech guys. With none of them. Another reason why they usually came to me with questions/issues. That day S and I were alone in the office. Our desks were several feet apart, open plan office, so no cubicles. S decided she wanted to send a birthday wish to a friend and to use one of these free websites that offered gift cards. I only noticed that something was wrong when she made a noise of surprise. I asked her what was wrong and she told me about the card and that she'd just clicked on a pop-up button to get to the card. Now something was installing. 3 guesses what she'd just done. She hadn't even finished talking before I was across the floor and under her desk, pulling the network Ethernet cable. Then I called tech support and told them what was going on. Instead of one of the apprentices, the team lead for tech support himself showed up. He looked at her desktop and agreed with me that she'd probably installed a virus and praised me for my quick thinking. He told S that he probably would have to completely reinstall her computer. No biggie, right? Wrong. S, totally flustered, but what about my files? Turned out that she had saved all of her project and work files on her desktop. All of them. Company policy was to save everything either on our private network drive or on the team network drive, which were backed up daily. Not on the computer. Something she'd explained to me during my initial training. If you looked at her screen, her whole desktop was littered with files, including private stuff. Tech team lead looked at me as if I was able to explain to him what she'd been thinking. Why she'd done that. Unfortunately, I was asking myself the same question. He took her computer with him and I'd been right, she'd installed a virus or a worm. I don't remember what exactly it was, and that by pulling the network cable, I'd probably prevented the virus from spreading. While he didn't say it out loud, he hinted strongly that they hadn't even tried to save her files and just set up her computer, deleting all of her files. Yeah, they really didn't like her. Even years later, I'm still grinning about that incident. I didn't like her either.